Hello and welcome back to my channel. This is episode 2 of Ask a Dyer, where I answer your questions about dyeing yarn. My name is Stacy. I'm the dyer behind Stress Knits Yarn, and this is my YouTube channel that is all about knitting, making, and a little bit of gardening and plants, and also yarn dyeing. So I'm very happy you're here. We have 4 questions today that come from last episode, so I am really excited to dive into these questions with you and just get into it. So, question 1, what do you think is the basic kit people who dye yarn need? Aluminum pot, burner, tongs, etc. So, it really depends on how you are going to dye yarn. There are a bunch of different methods. You can use There's a bunch of different things you can use, but for me, and remember that I am not the end-all be-all of yarn dyeing. The way that I do things is just one way that yarn can be dyed. But if I am recommending to you what to buy, it would definitely be a stainless steel pot. If you're using an induction burner, which is how I dye yarn right now, make sure it is induction ready, induction compatible. So flat bottom. I do like a heavy bottom pot for yarn dyeing. I think it's really nice. So you need that. Tongs are definitely a good idea. You need gloves. You need a mask. And for masks, a respirator is really what you need. But honestly, in these times of pandemic, if you have an N95 and you're just like testing some stuff out, that will probably work for short term. But long term, I definitely think a respirator with filters and stuff is the way to go. So gloves, respirator, you need dye that is compatible with the fiber you are using, which I will talk about in a little bit. You need an acidifier for acid dyes if that's what you're using. So look in how to attach the color to the medium that you're using. So for dyeing like I dye, I use acid dyes, and you need an acid to acidify the water to make the color stick to the fiber. So I use citric acid. I get a lot of it off of Amazon. It's been the only place that I can consistently get the same brand. But I've also, at the very beginning, I just used regular vinegar, and that worked really well. So yeah, I think that's really all you need. And then also something to tie off your yarn so that when it's in the pot or pan, it is not getting all tangled spaghetti on you. So I think that would be really good. You know what, I'm remembering that there was a question. I'm gonna put it right under this, making notes, so that I can post all the questions under the video so you will see what I've answered. Let's see. Okay, so yes, I think that's the essential kit. So your pot, stainless steel pot, heavy bottom pot, induction burner if you aren't using your stove, gloves, respirator, tongs, dye, your acid, so vinegar or citric acid. I think that's really it. I might be forgetting something. And then somewhere to hang up your yarn after you wash it. Oh, I also suggest a wool wash for after to kind of help make the yarn feel nice. I use Tuft Woolens. I either use lavender or her unscented bar, but this Tuft Woolens wool wash, it has lanolin in it, and it just makes your yarn very soft and wonderful. So that's also, I think it's important, especially if you're using vinegar, to put something that smells good in the rinse when you rinse out the yarn. Question 2, what do you use to tie off your yarn so it doesn't get tangled? I use these. These are reusable zip ties. Again, you can find them on Amazon or probably just about anywhere. I think these are the 10-inch ones. They're the ones that work the best for me. Oh, perfect. I actually have one on this. So I undo the yarn and it's in your loop and you just put it on, keeping it roomy so that you're not creating a resist, because if you put it too tight, dye can't get there, so don't do that. And then you just, there's this little like latch and you just pop it and then you reuse them. It's really great. I have a whole bucket full, and this is probably about a third of my stash. The rest of it is on Advent yarn downstairs. And for me, that keeps it all together, keeps it as tangle-free as possible. You still might run into some tangles. You could also do 2 zip ties if you would like. I know in the beginning, when I really wasn't sure if this was something I was going to do or if it was just going to be a hobby, I also used ribbon. You know, the like plastic ribbon you use when you like tie balloons to stuff. That is something I used, but as I started dyeing more yarn and as I realized that this was a more long-term business, I decided to invest. It's like $10 for reusable zip ties and you only need to buy them once. Yeah, and the ones that I had before the flood, I think I had them for about 2 or 3 years, and then I just didn't feel like washing them, so I got rid of them and got new ones. And I'll probably have these for a long time. You will occasionally have to replace some here and there, but it's better for the environment, and I don't know, I think it's nice to be able to use reusable stuff when you can. So that's what I use. Number 3, this isn't really a dye question, but I'm curious how you get such great photos of your yarn. Thank you. That has been a long road. Now, I'm going to say this up front. I am super lucky that I'm married to someone who knows how to use a camera, who does it for his job. So my husband does more of the video stuff, but he can also do photography. And so he's been taking my photos since day one. And when we started off, he wasn't well versed in studio work. He was much more like think wedding photos and stuff like that. But we learned together how to do more still life studio like pictures. And it took a long time because I used to get really nervous telling him what I wanted. And so now we know that I like natural light. I think that's really important. And I also like a nice clean background. So I'm gonna show you, I didn't bring them over, but I will bring them over now. So I have some stuff that I use for my photos, for flat lays, and we're actually going to start using these for my product photos as well. So these are from Replica Surfaces, and it's literally just this giant square, and this is what I use. So I have a terrazzo, a butcher block, this like plaster one. Sorry, I'm like putting these on yarn. Okay, this plaster one that I really like. And then I recently bought the marble, because if you've seen my yarn photos before, you'll know I put them on marble, and we actually had a tile of marble that we used that, surprise, surprise, was in the basement when it flooded. So they were having a Labor Day sale. I'll put the link to Replica Surfaces below. Not sponsored, just a fan. And yeah, I think this is a really good investment if you like taking photos in general for Instagram, for like flat lays. It just gives you a really nice surface. And then also they got a new back, because this is what Replica Surfaces backs used to look like. But this new one that I got has this, and I think it's super fun, and I'll probably end up using it at some point. But yeah, so this is my background. We're actually using this for product photos for the first time for the fall collection today. I'm very excited to see how that goes. Yeah, so natural light, a nice surface that shows off your yarn. And when you're editing photos, especially for product shots, don't use filters. Don't do it. Make it just like adjust your white balance and exposure and stuff like that. I would not just throw a filter on it because it can distort the color a lot. And that's usually where you run into the yarn that you get in the mail not looking like the yarn in the photo. So play around with it and stop tweaking the photo when it looks like what it looks like to you. I don't do that part because I'm not very good at it. So I don't know. I'm very lucky to have him as my partner because I think I would still have pretty rough pictures if it wasn't for Doug. Yeah, so question 4. I really enjoyed this. Thank you. I'm really enjoying it too. I think this is super fun. So I have started dyeing my own yarn. So really, okay, sorry, let's retry that. I have started dyeing my own, so really enjoy learning more about the process each dyer uses. It is really interesting because everybody is so different. How do you keep track of your formulas so you can replicate color, especially when you're just trying out a color idea? So I am a little bit of a rebel when it comes to writing down recipes. I'm not very good at it. It's that step that I just don't take. A lot of the time, the only time that I really do it is during advents because I don't want to replicate the same colorway as I'm moving through. So I know exactly what I've done for the colorways I've already dyed. And then I can repeat them if I decide to keep them in the line. But I don't have a recipe book. I used to, and my notes are incoherent. And I have found that I really struggle. I think this is why I'm not a good baker. I'm not good about measuring stuff and being really precise. So it's not something that I do. I don't write down recipes. I do, but I know what it's supposed to look like, and I know what dye I use because I don't have like a huge amount of dye that I use. I kind of play around with the same. There's like 10 dyes that I use almost exclusively. And that's kind of why my colors are pretty cohesive. And then I add like a rogue one here and there, mostly for speckles. But I know what it's supposed to look like. Like I know the difference between Eloise and Palm Lines, which are 2 of my pinks. Like I know the difference between those. I know the difference between Mountain Mama and Eucalyptus. Like I know it's really not great practice, but I think use a system that makes sense for you. And also I have no desire to have, maybe not desire, I have no plans in the near future to have employees since I run the business out of my own house. And yeah, there's just not going to be a need for someone else to replicate my dyeing. So I do it all myself and I know what it's supposed to look like, so I kind of tweak stuff. I don't know. It's not the most efficient. It's definitely not the best way to do it. I know dyers that take copious amounts of notes and measurements. I can't do it. When I create a new color, I like to play around with dye a lot, and then I finally kind of get my end result, and then I try doing it immediately after that, and then usually it's kind of in my brain. I have a pretty good memory. I don't know. Yeah, but use the way that works best for your brain, and then I think you'll be okay. So if you need to take copious amounts of notes, do it. If you're like me, I'm pretty sure Sue of Legacy Fiber Arts also doesn't take like crazy notes. Like occasionally I will write down, okay, I used these 3 dyes. And then I know, like in my brain, I just know what order they go in and how I used them. And I think she does a very similar thing. I don't know. It's just one of those things. Sorry, I don't have better advice for it. It's just not what I do. And last but not least, question 5. What types of dyes do you use? What brand is your favorite? And have you ever thought of natural dyeing? So first I'll answer the last question. No, I have not thought about natural dyeing. It is a whole different process. There are a lot of things to learn about natural dyeing. I think it could be fun to just do as an experiment and as a hobby, but I don't think I see myself bringing natural dyeing to stress knits. They also need to sit for a lot longer, and it's just not, it might surprise you, but I'm not a super patient person, and I don't know, I don't think I would enjoy it. So that's that for natural dyeing. As for the types of dyes that I use, the majority of the dyes I use are wash fast acid dyes, and you'll find those kind of across the board of all brands. And then I also use a selection of saber set dyes. And if you look up those 2 dyes, they kind of tell you what you need to use them. Saber set, I have found, need a little bit of a higher heat, and they're a little less forgiving than wash fast acid dyes, but they're both really great. And then I use 2 brands of dyes. I use Dharma Trading Company, and then I also use Pro Chemical Dye Works. I will link both of their websites below. And I really, I have a lot of fun with them. So I have certain dyes that I will only buy from Dharma, and I have dyes that I will only buy from Pro Chem. Even if there's like a sister dye that kind of looks similar, I'm not brand loyal. I know that I will only buy this certain pink from Dharma and then this certain pink from Pro Chem. I don't know, it is all about what you like. And it's funny because there are colors. One of my friends, Julie, who is Sweet Sparrow Knits, and has Sweet Sparrow yarns, her and I, we've talked about the different dyes that we really like and we really don't like. And one of my favorite dyes she does not like to use, which I think is really funny. And then some of her favorite dyes I don't like. And so I think it's really interesting how each person can, it's just different for everybody, which is super fun. And I know a lot of people swear by Ballerina Pink from Dharma. I hate it. I hate that pink so much. And I bought it once and I will never buy it again. It's so funny that everything is just a little different for every single dyer. So play around with it, and you will find what you reach for the most. And it's fun to see what you like. So that is it for this episode. And Leave your questions below for next time, and I will try to answer them the best that I can. So thank you for watching. Bye.